This is K-12 Tech Talk. K-12 Tech Talk. The podcast by K-12 Techs for K-12 Techs. Real conversations, real arguments, and real banter on trending K-12 technology topics and issues.
Live from the somethingcool.com studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, episode 114. I am Josh. With me, we're all back together actually tonight. The first time I've seen the inside of Chris's house in over a month.
I'm going to try to hang out the whole time.
That was Chris and Mark.
Hello.
Hey, Mark. So it's been another week. It seems like these weeks are flying by like crazy. Thankfully, Jeremy has stocked the green room again with spring beverages, a nice light Fresca this evening. Not looking, I didn't see any food, so I don't know what's up with that, Jeremy. But Jeremy and the Cooligans at somethingcool.com can help you with any number of issues. They sell hardware, they sell software, they can do some cyber training for your staff. They can do phishing services. What else? What am I missing, dude?
They like selling Ruckus.
Oh,
they got cloud backup stuff as well.
Oh, that's right.
And Jeremy did. This is real talk. He said, "Tell Josh to quit badmouthing like SonicWall and Lenovo."
I haven't. Oh, okay. I haven't badmouthed SonicWall in a while now. Lenovo, they're on the top of that list.
Hey.
All right.
Good.
So what's Jeremy's email address?
Jeremy at somethingcool.com.
Shoot Jeremy an email and tell him that we sent you.
And that you like Lenovo, that you like SonicWall.
Yes, it's all a bit, right? It's all just a bit. No, really.
I did have someone ask, does Something Cool really send you guys stuff?
I had somebody ask me that this weekend. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
It's all true.
Not
Ghost energy drinks, Warheads, sour watermelon. That's what I'm drinking.
Lime Fresca. So what's been up, guys? It's been a busy week. It's testing season. It's spring. Spring is in the air. Mark, you just said it was 85 in your town today.
Yeah, really nice weather. Went for a walk today. I thought about some things.
Mark might be in a midlife crisis. Yeah. So are you guys, Mark, when do you guys do you guys do spring assessment? When is your assessment time frame where you live?
We are in the middle of our assessment window. Yeah, I was at a school the other day, and that we had a school. It was like, we're gonna test every kid today for the first day. I was like, well, this sounds like a recipe for disaster, but it was good. It was very smooth.
You guys test on Chromebooks, right? And that,
yeah, yep,
yeah, we do too. Since we really started pushing 1-to-1 heavy about 5 years ago, it's been really interesting to watch how my first couple of years in my district, the spring assessment window in those buildings, they only had one cart per grade level, so they had to share it. So the testing window, we took advantage of the entire month and a half, 2 month long testing window, where now every classroom has a cart and every kid has a device available to them almost any time during the day. So they can bang out that testing window in like a week and a half now. It's pretty wild how that happens. Chris, any thoughts on spring assessments?
We just started this week as well. We typically do luck out where they pick 1 or 2 classrooms and small class sizes, like 10 or less kids. We did happen to pick, so we use, what is it, Josh? DRC.
Yeah.
The day that DRC was down this week.
Yep.
Was our very first day of trying to test.
I think there were a lot of people in that boat, and I think that's probably I think that happens every year.
Yep.
Every year, the start of the window, DRC crashes because everyone tries to get in.
Because we try to do we tell the buildings to do the pre-check stuff that you can do to check, screen resolution, blah, 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 blah. I tell them that 2 months in advance. And do a reminder email like, hey, make sure you check this. There's a building tech that can help fix those things. They're looking for they do that check and they're looking for the green check marks, the whole bit. Right. So they were feeling pretty good. And then that building in particular called because they're freaking out. And they're like, we checked these because that's always my first. Hey, did you check that Chromebook? Is it getting green check marks? That's the easy thing to tell a teacher.
And it's always the resolution. It's always the kids that have messed with the resolution. It's always.
I agree.
You guys test early in the window. So Chris and I, it's no secret, Chris and I are in the same state. We will not start testing, I think, for another week and a half. So we ride that window till the bitter end, and it kind of freaks me out. We've had this discussion before where you hear these horror stories where like a squirrel or a groundhog chews through a fiber line and the district loses internet for 3 days. That's my fear, is like we're waiting until the bitter end of the testing window, and like they have to be turned in on Tuesday and we're testing on Monday. My fear is that there's going to be a badger eat through a fiber line and we're not going to be able to.
A wild boar.
An outbreak of an alpaca horde goes running down the street. Pick your favorite animal.
Well, and in our neck of woods, it's the construction vehicles that come out of hibernation this time of year. And they all start digging. They all start digging.
Big yellow cable finders.
The giant caterpillars and backhoes, and they all come out, stretch their buckets, and then they just start digging in the ground.
What did you say?
Bucket.
Okay.
And then they start digging, and then sometimes they find food, and sometimes they find fiber lines. And so that's happened to us a couple of times already.
That sucks, man.
Yeah.
We've had that happen more than once.
Yeah.
Oh, that was, yeah. Those are not fun conversations.
Can I say an ISP's name?
Sure.
Should I?
Whatever.
Had a issue with an ISP this week. I'll omit the name.
You have the worst problems with your ISPs.
We had a deal. There was some weird routing things going on. We could get to this gateway. This is kind of school related, kind of not. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. Could ping this gateway, but couldn't actually reach it. It was really weird. And if you were in-house, it was okay, but externally or on another provider, not working. Long story short, Josh and I are from Missouri. Abbreviation is MO, spelled MI, so Spectrum, or I'm not saying the name, I forgot. Anyways, they thought I was in Michigan.
Oh,
so they did a bunch of routing junk. We were going Michigan, I don't even know what they were doing on the back end.
How does that even happen?
So the local tech, when he came, he called it in, and he was like, he put the phone in, he was like, they just asked me how the weather was in Michigan. I'm pretty sure I have an idea about what's going on here.
Oh my gosh. How is that?
I don't know. And it took it took a little while still for them, because they have like, here's the 5 things we're going to troubleshoot before we're really going to dig into it.
Right.
So they're testing the line and testing the speed and whatever, 5 different tests before they allowed him to get to the. And this is him talking to him, to his employer, before they would let him speak and say like, hey, I think we got some wrong state stuff going on. He told me, he's like, I'm gonna have to do all this stupid stuff before they're gonna let me express my opinion. But
how's
kind of fun.
That's you know who that wouldn't happen to, because they do audits. They'll audit your Google Workspace. Absolute.
Yes, Absolute. A proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast.
You looked really confused there for a minute. I'm
still learning about Absolute, as are you, as are we, as are the listeners.
That I was talking about the wrong vendor.
I just didn't know. Who are we talking about? They want me to talk about how they can help you protect against ransomware. We think of ransomware. We don't think about this, but typically a lot of people think about ransomware in business sector land. It's absolutely hitting in K-12 now. The bad actors, they're going after us now in K-12. It's been that way for a while. Absolute, they have a unique ransomware response product. They can help you with your security troubles to put into place. And I'm going to put a link in the podcast description about the ransomware response that Absolute can help you with. And we're like 3 weeks in with Absolute. We're going to keep Mark's favorite word. We're going to keep unpacking a little bit about them. If you're paying attention, go out of your way to actually look at the podcast description, click on those links and learn more. But they're going to be with us for like a total of 6 weeks. So towards the end of this, I think we're probably going to do a sit down interview with a couple guys from Absolute. If you want any information after checking them out, if you email Oliver Schmidt, that's Schmidt at absolute.com. I'll put his email address in the podcast description as well.
It's totally childish, but I giggle like a schoolboy whenever you say it.
Yeah, I wish you wouldn't, because I don't know how Oliver feels about that.
I'm sure he hates it. He's probably going to punch me in the throat when we have this.
He listens too. He's going to send me something about this. I feel like this is good. Like, I think it's great. I think it's the perfect sales rep.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Like,
people remember it. Like,
yes.
I'm going to remember Oliver's name because of his email address. Yes.
Anyways, Absolute, a proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, which, by the way, hit 50,000 downloads this week.
Yeah.
No claps, nothing.
Yay. Yeah. Yes, 50,000 downloads. That's awesome. Speaking of, okay, a couple comments while you were talking. I have things going in and out of my head. If you're paying attention, Chris, you said you used the phrase, if you're paying attention to these episodes, count the number of times that Chris says the word unpack or unpacking.
You know what I felt? Did you guys have another text? Like, were you guys texting about me or talking about me behind my back?
No,
not this week.
Did you correct that joke before we started this? And then I said it, and then you're talking about it again.
Yes.
That's what makes me think that you've talked about me.
We have not talked behind your back. No, this is all organic. So yeah, just count and email us or tweet us how many times he says unpack or unpacking. So you had mentioned ransomware and what Absolute can do. Something that came up on K-12 Tech Pro this week was
K-12 Tech Pro.
Somebody, yes, the vetted community for K-12 technicians and K-12 IT directors about, like a forum, a discussion forum. And there's different water-cooled posts in. And somebody, I don't remember the name of the person that posted this, but they are getting ready to do a tabletop exercise with their school and some leadership in their school on a ransomware incident. And I felt like it was a good idea to unpack that. But the point of this is CISA, if you don't know CISA, the cybersecurity, they have several tabletops pre-built for all of the critical infrastructure, everything from a third-party vendor event to local government event, a federal civilian executive branch DDoS attack. Well, one of the things they have, one of the things they have is a K-12 schools situation manual, a CTEP situation manual. And this walks you through a ransomware incident in a K-12 environment. It has several different modules to it, and you kind of step through it like a storyline. And this is different than the one that I took part in over a year ago. And they have definitely stepped their game up. They have definitely improved this tabletop exercise. I feel like it's definitely a conversation or a scenario that you could walk through with almost any leadership or any employee in the district. Because, Chris, we were talking about the show or before the show about how, some of the hard discussions are going to be, okay, how long can you live without a financial system? How long can you live without charging for lunch real time? Those are kind of the questions that this prods you to ask and then develop a priority for systems to be brought back up.
Yeah, because like that particular one that they had posted, I forget the actual question, but it's like it wants the room to have a conversation about all the different systems and then really dig into it. Like at what point, like let's talk about it, room. At what point would you say high school? Would you say elementary? Would you say safety director? Would you say admin that we don't have school? How many days could we go with our cooks having to do everything by hand as far as who's eating breakfast and who's eating lunch? And then like that financial system conversation. Hey, sysadmin and tech department, if our financial system was hit, how many days would it take you to get us back up and running? And he says 2. But then you're looking over at the financial people and they're like, oh no, we can only be down for a day. Well, we need to have a conversation about this right now because we have the ability to promise you or to strive for 2 days. If you're saying 1 day and okay, let's talk about this. which side's winning here, or what's the compromise? Do we need to spend more money on backups for that particular system, or are we just going to settle? We need to talk about what if it's 3 days, what if it's 4 days, to actually have those conversations and banter about them. And that particular one gave like, I forget, it gets into like, it's like day one, there's like an email from the FBI, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of the point of the blah, blah, blah even is, okay, counselor that came to this tabletop exercise, if you get an email about FBI that talks about ransomware, do you think that pertains to you at all, or do you just write that thing off? Okay, you say you write that thing off. What about you, principal? When you see an email like that, does that affect you at all? Do you think about that? Okay, day one, you guys think that's tech department's problem. And then it's not until it's like day 9, like an employee gets fired. And again, you're supposed to kind of think it through the room. Do we care about, as far as a cybersecurity threat goes, if an employee gets fired, like what precautions do we have with that? And then it really gets bad about day 40 or whatever, where a ransomware attack is introduced, and you're supposed to unpack that. So not just for tech departments to go through the scenario, but for everyone too.
And I think go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
Nope. I was just making the motion that he just said unpack.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
I think it definitely helps the non-technical people in your district. If you invite, a cross-platform or cross departmental type event, it helps those non-technical people kind of get a glimpse into the amount of noise that we see on a daily basis from alerts from MSISAC, CISA, FBI, and okay, how do you parse out, how do you pull out the one or two that, I really need to pay attention to this one. And then, like in this tabletop, it's something kind of out of left field that you haven't been alerted to that ends up happening. So, you have this constant, and they're all valid emails, are all valid alerts, but which ones do you take more seriously than others? And I think that's a good, those people kind of need to see that.
I'm trying to get better, but I struggle with tabletops a little bit because you're kind of supposed to like use your imagination and like get into it.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time. Like the one that you hosted, Josh. Yeah. It was great, but I just like listening to other people. I just have a hard time. Like, I don't know. Like Josh was like, he was like had feelings of being under attack when he's going through the exercise.
So that's every day, man.
Do you role play like Dungeons and Dragons style?
Not like Dungeons and Dragons. No.
One person's the dungeon master. I'm like, ransomware.
if you rolled it. Well, that backdoors and breaches, you roll. You actually roll and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So back if you're
you've unlocked the ransomware.
If you don't know what backdoors and breaches is, it is
roll the dice to see what the Bitcoin amount will be.
It's from Black Hills Information Security, and they have made a card game that is not all encompassing, but several different threat vectors, several gotchas as the event goes on, and you do legitimately roll dice to see how you figure things out and how you get beyond certain steps and certain events that are taking place. They've got a really good YouTube video on how to play it, and their office kind of steps through playing the game, and it's pretty entertaining. That's from Black Hills Information Security. They are super cool. They offer a lot of training. They're not paying us to say any of this, actually. They offer a lot of training. They are brilliant people. They've got some really cool t-shirts. Voiceover. I bought a couple t-shirts from them. So check them out. Backdoors and breaches. If
choose your character, high school secretary.
What kind of armor does the high school secretary have?
I don't know.
Maintenance director. Hit points +4. So Chris, you said we had some man, we could spend an hour just drawing up the characters.
I know, I'm holding back.
Chris, you said we had some listener emails. Why don't you?
We did. So listener Aaron said, and this has been a little while ago, and I don't think I was around for this episode, but you guys unpacked about the Chrome, the net export exploit. You guys talked about that on an episode, and he spent some time messing with that, unpacking it. I'm going to keep saying it. Found the website where you can upload and figure out some things. So he was giving us a thank you for that information, but also to pass along that it's 1,000% legit. That is a real life exploit happening. Yeah. And remind me what that was.
What was that? That was something with getting into a Chrome URL or a Chrome OS URL, exporting a text file, and then going to a website that kind of unhashed the text string that was in that text file, and it came back with the SSID passphrase, if I'm remembering right. And the afternoon that we found it, I think it was a post on Reddit or K12 Tech Pro, one of the two, because they're so competing there.
David that versus afternoon, Goliath.
One of my guys saw it, and he's like, "Yeah, I just did this, and this is legit. Like, this really does work." So, it is definitely a threat. Yeah.
And that's something that you can block. You can block that URL. You can go in the Google admin and do the URL blocking on that, which probably should have already had happened, right?
Yeah, but that gets back into that thing of Google releasing settings that I feel like they could do a much better job of alerting admins to. And again, like last week, that wireless setting that we changed, I didn't know that existed. So I don't know that you can really blame anyone for not having that blocked.
I think I can tell a funny student Chromebook story really quick. I think this is yeah. I can unpack this real quick. Had a kid, Chromebook having an issue. I think it was with his touch screen or something not working. Brings the Chromebook down. I spend just a little bit. I'm actually the one that messes with it. Do a little bit of diagnostic stuff. It's absolutely the screen. So we're going to issue him a new Chromebook. So that's what's going to happen, right? So take his stuff out. It's going to go to the library. They're going to issue him a new Chromebook. He comes back later because he saved a bunch of stuff to his the local downloads folder on the Chromebook, which is a bummer because that stuff doesn't transfer with you.
Right.
And I can tell he's devastated. And usually when this happens, the guys kind of look at me. They want, because I'm located at the high school, and we have like a half door, and we want to be available to the teachers, to the kids. But when stuff like this is happening, the guys kind of look at me because I'm going to be the villain that says your downloads are gone. So I'm saying it nice though. I'm like, hey man, yeah, anything really important to you, you should save to your Google Drive. Don't save it locally to your downloads folder. We're not going to be able to get that back for you, blah, blah, blah. Because we've already tried to wipe that Chromebook and moved on with life and stuff. He's devastated. I can tell. He does a quick hand movement. And I didn't notice this. My technician noticed this in the middle of us talking. And then he's like, well, my Chromebook's doing this. And he had done the keys to make it try to refresh. Like to make it have like a Chrome OS error, like ready to be wiped. So my technician noticed that so what he was trying to do was he was trying to get his Chromebook back.
Yeah.
Very smart. But then we just reset it and told him he's good to go. But he was trying.
Good story.
Great story. Yeah.
God, cut that.
So what's our next listener email?
Oh, you bring me down to bring me back up. Another listener email from Mike talking about the 3-year episode. I don't think I was around for this one either. I think it was intern. It was Eric the intern.
I mean, let's face it. We could consider you part-time for the last 2 months, 3 months.
I don't know what's been going on. Anyway, he said, somehow I hadn't heard your podcast until fairly recently, and I'm really enjoying it a lot so far. Your episode about it being 3 years since everything closed down really resonated with me as it marked a huge moment in my life. My wife and I had welcomed our first child into the world shortly after the lockdown. And then he just goes on to unpack just how crazy it was during that time. And he told us thanks for our work and to keep it up. But an interesting listening to that episode that you guys did, I don't know if is that trauma that we have with that time, or just these memories hit really hard. We can instantly like think back about what life was like.
I think you
during
can call
that time.
Trauma. Yeah.
I was thinking about talking about Google admin stuff. I got all kinds of OUs in there I need to clean up that was like on the fly virtual learning things we were doing that I need to go back and do cleanup of my tech stuff still. I remember spinning up a Google site for our virtual learners in a day, and my department was like, "What are you doing building the website?" And I was like, "I had to do it, guys."
And our final listener email, which will, I think, interesting.
Yeah, so listener H, we'll go with that. I am proposing to our administration that we shut off our public-facing SIS in the late evenings and weekends to help protect against possible cyber attacks. Older administration doesn't understand, and they want to keep things running. And that means that people, of course, at 1 a.m. will have access. What are your thoughts on something like this? I would really like to power these things off to have the bad guys have some disadvantage.
Mark?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And I think my gut reaction to that was like, well, that just seems a little maybe unnecessary. Like, why bother doing that? I mean, and I guess it all depends on how you're going to do it. When you say powering off, that just seems like it's a recipe for disaster when you have to power things back on in the morning. But the more I think about it, we're right now planning for spring break, and we're going through kind of buttoning down the hatches and looking for, as we start to go and go migrate away from our systems for the next week, and we have less eyes looking at things, we're battening down the hatches and starting to figure out what are the things we need to clean up. So it does kind of make sense, like taking that on a smaller level. You're not in your student information system in the middle of the night. You don't have a legitimate business need to be there. So I kind of see that. I do see the value in saying there's no need for us to have a system up and active in the middle of the night when all of us are asleep. Why not take it offline to reduce risk?
Can I take a counterpoint to that?
You can.
Yeah.
So, Mark, you're dumb.
I know. Yeah, it's fine.
No, the only concern that I would have with that would be, I know we have teachers that grade things later in the evening. So I think finding that time that you either have a firewall rule that kicks in and disables external access, or you have a scheduled task that shuts the box down, I think you're going to have to try and find that sweet spot. Is it 11 o'clock at night? Is it midnight? Is it 1 a.m.? And then when does it come back on? Because I know when I pull into the office at 6:50 in the morning, there's teachers that have beat me there. So yeah, at what time do you bring that stuff back up? I understand the idea of it, but I almost wonder if you're not bringing more headache onto your. A couple of years ago, we took the step of creating a scheduled task that shut down machines on Friday nights, and I just did it because no one reboots their machines. Like, I know for a fact if we don't do this, there's going to be machines in my district that have been up for 174 days since the first day of school. Mm-hmm. So, but some people had the idea, well, if they're powered off, they can't be hit. Well, yeah, that's true, but that's not the big push why I was doing that. I think there is validity to the statement. I just think it would be a tough conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm kind of indifferent on this one. I mean, I think we're right now looking at, summer vacation. As you start to get to summer vacation, what are the big things that you need to do to prepare for summer vacation? That's when, if you look at some of these big attacks, LA was a great example where they were hit at 8 p.m. on the Friday night before Labor Day weekend. And you start to look at other districts getting hit. They're getting hit on Thursday nights, Friday nights before Easter weekend, before spring break. So I do think that there is validity in saying when we don't need a system, we know that our attackers are going to hit us when we're down, when we're not looking, and they know when we're asleep. I don't know. I mean, really on how you do that, how you implement that, I think really needs to be cared for. Otherwise, you're going to make a whole lot more work for yourself if it does not come back automatically. And you got to imagine there's always going to be somebody that wakes up before you.
Oh, yeah.
And is going to go to the SIS. So if you don't have it set where you can have that on at a reasonable hour, and I think 5 a.m. would be the latest I'd have it come back on. At least in my district, I know we have people at work shortly after 5. And you have to do it in a way that does not depend on you. Otherwise, you're going to kill yourself when people start knocking on your door in the middle or in the early morning. So
you guys, like your homes, do you leave your front doors unlocked?
No.
Do you ever leave your front doors open overnight?
I mean, I thought the answer to the first question would solve that.
It's locked, but it's open, Mark.
Yeah. No, we lock our doors and then we just leave them wide open. No, I grew up in an area where we never locked the door once. We go on vacation and never lock the door.
Yeah.
But where I am now, I got to lock it.
Yeah. So just quickly, another thought that comes to my head is a parent that works night shift that wants to check their students' grades. I think there would be a whole lot of use cases that will end up generating a call if you try to do that. I would like, if listener H ended up doing this, I would like to hear back.
He's not gonna. You called Mark dumb, therefore you called listener H dumb.
I was trying to have a debate with Mark.
Yeah, and I was agreeing with H and I got called dumb. Man, it wasn't even my idea.
I would like to hear back that if H did implement this, how has it gone? How did people take it? Have parents have members of the community said anything about it? It would be an interesting case study, I think. And maybe we're going to get to the point where cyber insurance is going to require it.
Hey, so listener H, I was slow to reply to him on the email. So I was like, I think he emailed back.
Oh gosh.
And he did. He said, if you want some feedback, this wasn't planned. This is great. Planned. He said, I actually did the sys shutdown as a test, weekends only at first, starting Friday night. I opened it to every night without saying anything to anyone. I moved all other servers to this policy basically in the middle of the next month. To date, I have had one PE teacher on a Friday night who was at home watching a movie, eating pizza, and decided to hop on and enter in his grades off hours. I've had one student ask about getting into his grades from home after hours. Both cases, they were isolated incidences and no one else asked or complained. Once I mentioned the hours of operation, both have been satisfied and moved on, both of those, that teacher and that student. He said, I think I'm going to leave it as it is for right now. It was really not a big deal. And honestly, there might be 2 or 3 people that actually access it over hours.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So if not shutting the system down, what else can you do to prepare for that time when you're away? What are you going to do over a long weekend before spring break? Because everybody's going on spring break or they just came back from spring break. So what are those things that you can do to prepare for that unattended time period?
Not a server thing, but desktops. You could ask teachers to shut their machines down. Mark, like you've said, kind of kill off any non-critical systems that are tapping the web for anything. Mm-hmm. Put in a rule that says, the print server can't get out to the web, or but again, how much work are you going to go to on the front side to just come back a week later and undo it? I don't know. Is it worthwhile? Probably. Is it going to protect you? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think you're on something there too. I think it could really depend on, like, okay, the 3 of us considering this, if we then went to our tech departments and we talked through how we would accomplish this, if it's kind of easy to accomplish, okay, sure, let's do it. That's easy fruit. If it's going to be hard, let's leave that one up on the tree, like whatever.
Easy fruit?
Let's pick something else. Yeah.
Here's what I would do before you get to a long weekend. Rather than shutting the SIS down or shutting down a system down, go through the admin accounts, go through the sysadmin accounts, see if you've got any gray hairs that need to be trimmed off. If you've got somebody that only needs, district wide or a high level access on occasion, maybe suspend their account or remove that access for the long weekend. I mean, that's a lot more manual work than setting up a procedure that shuts the system down. But I would rather, start to trim down the stray or dormant accounts. That's a more likely thing that's going to happen, is a dormant account is going to be taken over and used when you're not looking. I refer to them as sleeper accounts. If I'm a threat actor, I'm going to go in, I'm going to set a sleeper account in place. And then that's what the account is that I'm going to use that night. So rather than shut the system down, I would say your long weekends, your spring breaks, that's your chance to kind of give yourself a little bit of a trim and go through your sysadmin accounts, your high level domain admins.
And I think too, most next gen firewalls have schedule based, or that I think you could create like we do this with wireless. We shut down our guest network at 4:00 in the evening, and it doesn't come back on until 7:00 the next morning. That's easy to do with Aruba Wireless. I think you could do the same thing with a FortiGate firewall and do a time-based rule that would kill external access for several of your servers, or even all of your servers, name it, AD, print, files, whatever. Speaking of FortiGate and Fortinet, Chris.
Fortinet podcast at Fortinet.com. Email them. Let them know that you heard about them from us. You can even just email them to say hi. And if you're looking for a firewall, if you're looking for some EDR, if you're looking for whatever, Fortinet has a ton of products. We know that. Fortinet everything. So email Fortinet podcast at Fortinet.com.
Fortinet everything.
Let's talk about New Hampshire. We're going to New Hampshire soon. The New Hampshire CTO Clinic. All three of us going to be there in person. Mark, do you want to talk about the keynote that we get to do?
It is a retrospect, some of the lessons learned. So it's going to be a really exciting look back at what are the challenges that we had to go through during COVID, and what are the things that have changed our jobs and the way we do things, but also how do we use those to think about the future? We've got new technologies coming up on us really quickly, like AI. And how do we make sure that AI does not take over us before we get a chance to actually understand what it's going to do and how it's going to change our districts? So that'll be a little bit of fun.
We need the help of
That's right.
That's in New Hampshire, but anyone up in New England can attend.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
Come on up. It's gonna be. Mark said it's gonna be exciting, so bring your popcorn.
And Mark would know because he's the one writing the keynote.
Yes. I don't think there is AI networking equipment yet, but I think who will develop it first will be Extreme Networks. Don't you think, Chris?
Yeah, Dean Mayer at extremenetworks.com. Hit that guy up. And also, talking about K-12 Tech Pro, there's a new article from Eric the intern on there about all the free training. If your E-rate season is coming to a close, maybe you're starting to get your new networking gear in. Extreme Networks is one of the ones listed that they give free training. So if you got new switches and you're not sure how to config them, you can go to K-12 Tech Pro, click on that free tools article, and Extreme Networks, the link to their free training is listed there. And email dmayer at extremenetworks.com.
All righty. We appreciate them being on. It's eval season. Do you guys, so we've had to do, or I had to do evals for my 2 employees. Do you guys, I know you guys get reviewed and evals from whomever. I'm assuming you do evals.
I do. I usually do one formal one a year, and then one I call informal. It's more just laid back. Both have the same, like the sheet that I give is the same.
Yeah.
But I always say one doesn't really count. It's just more making sure that it's really most of the time, it's my chance to communicate well that I think they're doing a good job. And to say some of those things that I don't say daily or even weekly to them, or maybe sometimes monthly to them. It's a good check on that. It's even a good time just to talk about projects going on and cross-training opportunities sometimes. I like to unpack that. But yeah, twice a year, basically.
Yeah. I do.
Unpack. I'm going to work on that, guys. I'm going to work on that.
And I think it's a good chance to, rather than waiting till the end of the year, one per year, you can address things a little sooner. If something needs to be addressed, you can address it halfway through a change. So yeah, definitely think about doing your evals for your tech stack.
Provision Data Solutions, a proud sponsor of the K12 Tech Talk podcast. Reach out to Ryan Rothkopf at Provision Data Solutions. That's all I got, bro.
All right.
That's all I'm going to unpack tonight.
Mark, anything else?
I got nothing. No.
Got nothing.
So we got one more time and then we're going to be in person. Is that what's going on?
No, we got 2 or 3 more times.
Oh, yeah, we got 2 more times. And then that final week, I will be going to Dallas for Vex robotics competition with my middle schoolers. We're going to kick butt on the world stage. And then I'm leaving from Dallas to meet Mark at an airport in Boston. Been working on that. And then Josh, you're going to show up like an hour after me.
Yep.
Mark, are we just going to sit on a bench like in the airport?
No, I'm gonna take you I got some place I'm gonna take you.
In an hour?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be dead before you get there, Josh.
The airport's right in the middle of town. So like, just gonna pop out, live it up, and then come back and get Josh.
Could you bring me to Mark Wahlberg's childhood home?
Yeah, we could do that.
I'm a big fan of him and also the New Kids on the Block. Joey McIntyre's house, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where that's at?
Mm-hmm. Where is this going?
We have them all in our assist. It's kind of interesting.
Do you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Josh, can you name one New Kids on the Block song?
I
know Mark knows them all.
He probably does. They probably have to sing them instead of the national anthem. There, they sing new. The Right Stuff. There we go.
Oh yeah, Mark, can you sing that really quick?
If I did, I might like screw up and do the Weird Al version.
What was the other one? Or maybe that was that one. Oh yeah, that was.
God. All right. We will. I guess we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
First time was the best time. Second time was a black. You got the rock star, baby.